right, ladies and gentlemen and ladies, you are on air now. All right, guys, as we always do, we need to give gratitude to God for everything, right? For being able to wake up this morning to come to the college to learn, we need to thank Him and we humbly request from Him to give us His wisdom. Without the wisdom of God, there's nothing we can achieve, right? Yeah. So, like yesterday, what did we do yesterday? That was the first part, right? The subtask one. Today, we're gonna make sure that we try complete the other part, which is a subtask two. Right. Let me reflect back to what we did yesterday for the subtask one. I said, you are going to do a kind of investigative, right? Investigative research, whereby you need to go out there to the community, then you need to identify three businesses, right? The three businesses, there are certain things you need to ask them that can help you to formulate your report. When you come back, you need to write your report based on the data you collected from the businesses. For example, you need to identify three different businesses, right? You need to know the names of the businesses, what the businesses are offering in terms of product or services as the case may be. You need to know when the business was established or the identified businesses were established, if you will. You need to know the motive or the motivation behind the owner starting the business. At least there should be something that motivated the owner to start the specific type of business. You should know the competitors of the identified businesses as it relates to where they are, their proximity to the business. Then you need to know about the application or where in the business where you can what you can identify in the business operations as part of your vocational studies, what you've learned in the college, where it's been applied in the business. Then you need to know the future plan of the business in terms of growth. Right. So those are the things that, and some other stuff that I haven't mentioned here now, that you are going to find out from the business owners and compile a report. Right. To write a report, you must structure it in such a way that it qualifies to be a kind of a report. Right. You must have an introduction, you must have a body, you must have the conclusion. Right. That one is for task one, or rather, let's call it subtask one, in order for us not to get confused. Right. Then the second aspect of it, we call it subtask two, is about business idea and market survey. Right. What it means is that having gone out to the community to see the type of businesses in the community, and you've been able to investigate three of the identified businesses. So, by virtue of that, you will now be in position to formulate a kind of a business idea, right? This business idea that you are going to generate, right, is going to be your own business idea. Does it make sense to you? Not the one that you've seen there. From what you've seen, right? Perhaps you must have been able to identify some gaps. Based on that gap, then you need to generate a business idea. Right. So that is what we are saying here. We said you are required to do a market research based on a business opportunity or idea gained from your investigation in subtask one. Right? So from there, you should be able to use the information collected to identify one viable business opportunity or business idea. We're talking about the same thing, right? Which, business idea on which a successful business can be established. So the business idea we are talking about now is not going to be existing one. From your own, you must generate it. Brainstorm and generate your own, right? So you must motivate why you think the opportunity is feasible. What do we mean by feasibility? Possible, right? You generate a business idea. If that business idea is not feasible, it's not viable, at the end of the day, you are wasting your time, right? A business idea must be feasible, must be viable, and it must be sellable. Sellable. You can be able to sell that idea to people, right? For example, you don't have money. You've got a brilliant idea. You don't have money, right? And you need to make sure that your dream is realized, of which you need to look for money, right? If that idea is not sellable, nobody gonna put in money, right? In other words, these days they got a modern language they are using. Say bankable. Must be a bankable idea, business idea. Do you understand what I mean? Right. Then you need to design a market research survey questionnaire with the following minimal requirement. Okay, now let me try to explain more what we are trying to explain here now. When you generate that business idea, right, you need to go out there to your target market to do a kind of a research, a survey, because you want to establish whether the target market will be interested in your business. That is the concept behind it, right? That is the logic. What we want to do now. You generate a business idea, go out there to establish, to find out whether people will be interested in your business, right? Because obviously that is how it works. You know, in the ordinary sense of it, when you generate an idea or you got a business idea, right, you must go out there to do a survey to see whether people will be interested before you jump in. You don't just generate an idea, you play around with it, then you just start selling. Right. If the business doesn't work out, that is one of the reason why most business fail in the first time, because they don't do their proper research. If you've got a business and you haven't done a proper research, what is going to happen? Your business might not do well. Right. Okay. So that is what you're going to do. You design a market research survey questionnaire with the following minimum. By now, you know how to design the questionnaire. We've done this before, right? So it should be structured, divided into two formats. Section A, which is the demographic questions, right? Here you need to ask personal information from the respondent. You know what I mean by respondent? The person that's going to be responding to your questionnaire, right? Yeah. So you need to ask certain demographic information. For example, what type of demographic information that could be asked here? You need to ask something like location. Where do you live? It's very important because in a real business idea, you need to know where they live, right? So that when you want to do your marketing, you know where to target, you know the medium to utilize. For example, you stay in Cape Town, right? And if I want to market something to you, I know most of the time you are at home. I cannot market use the social media, maybe perhaps radio from Atlantis, because you don't listen to Atlantis radio. Right. So that one can play a part. And you need to know again the gender. Gender, it plays a very important role as well, male or female, because there are certain products that are being demanded by male, which in most cases than female. So you should be able to discern that as well. Then you should be able to know the level of income. people that don't have a lot of money, that are not working. Level of income needs to be established. Then you must try to find out whether they are working. Perhaps you need to know the salary bracket, so that you can be able to establish their level of affordability if they can be able to afford. So those are the kind of stuff that needs to feature under the demographic question, right? Do you understand what I mean? Then section B, then the product, service, and market related questions. This is where you need to pose questions relating to the product or services. For example, you can ask somebody, let's say it's a business of Magunya, right? Here Magunya is coming in again. It's coming into play. I know you have heard of hearing about Magunya, but it's a very good example, right? For example, if I want to start selling Magunya, let's say my business idea is to sell Magunya, right? At the college here. So, how will I be able to, or what type of questions can I pose under section B that relates to my product and service? For example, I can ask you, do you normally bring food to the college, right? Then you're gonna say yes or no, right? I will put yes or no. You say, if you say yes, that means you will not be interested to buy my Magunya. From that alone, I know you will not be much interested. But if you say no, right, it tells me that this could be a target market, could be one of my target market. Then I said, okay, uh, will you like to, or will you be interested in buying food for your lunch? You see, it's related to my product. Then you say yes. I can as well ask you, what will you be interested in? Right? Or I can ask you to tick below the type of food you will be interested in. Or I can ask you, will you be interested in buying Maguire? Right? Perhaps you say yes. I say, what type of flavor will you be interested in? Right? You see, by collecting those information, I will not stop there. What will you be willing to pay? Right? Then you collect the responses, the opinion regarding the price. So once you collect those prices, the data, now you look at how many people are interested. From your data, you can be able to establish whether they're going to be interested and how much they would be willing to pay and the type of flavor they would be interested in. Then from there, you can make up your idea, or you can come up and say, okay, now based on this information I've obtained from the target market, it can help you to make an informed decision whether to take off and start running the business or to stop. Because, for example, if after doing my survey I discover that no one is interested or only a few people are interested, of which I cannot start my business to service only those scant few people, so I better call it a quit or go to other areas. So it's very important. With data alone, you can be able to make informed decision. That is what we call decisive decision. We call it evidence-based decision. You can never go wrong because you've gone now to collect, you got data with you that you can base your decision on. Does it make sense to you? Right. Okay. Now, the responded remarks. Okay, what I'm going to give you a typical example of a questionnaire that's going to guide you for you to know how to design a well articulated questionnaire of this nature, right? Then, okay, let's see. They say keep the following in mind. The questionnaire must have instruction for completion at the beginning, right? This is part of the component of the questionnaire. It must have an instruction. Please help me. Please answer the following questions, right? Or complete the following questions. You cannot design a questionnaire without an instruction, right? It must be there. Then open and close-ended questions should be used. Yeah, I need to explain to you the technical meaning of open and closed question. When we say open question, you know what is open question? An open question is sort of a question whereby you permit the respondent the opportunity to express himself or herself. Right? Open questions. Right. Then closed question is normally associated with dichotomic question. Dichotomy. You know what is dichotomy? Two, yes or no. Right? Will you be interested in buying Maguinya? That is a closed question. Dichotomous. Yes or no. The person, yeah, flavors. Yes, you can ask them about the flavors, but if you give them the flavors, the options to choose, it's a closed question as well. Sorry? If you give them options to choose, right? That is a closed question. But if you ask them what flavor do they like, then they give you their own flavor. That is an open question. Yeah. But if you want to restrict them, perhaps they choose something that you don't have, right? You see, you must try to guide them in such a way that they dance within your periphery. Because if you don't guide them, they can be misguided. They will choose something that you don't have. You see what I mean? Unless you are prepared to go beyond, say whatever flavor they like, I'm going to do it. Right? Okay, that one depends on your setup as well, your level of space. Yeah, good. Then I've talked about closed and open questions, right? Then the order of questions should flow, right? When you are asking questions, there should be that linkage, that golden thread from the beginning to the end, right? For example, when you are formulating your questionnaire, right? You cannot say, thanks for your time. You put it at the beginning. No, it's at the end you must say thanks for your time. All those kind of stuff. It must be logical. We are talking in terms of the questions be logical as well, right? To make sense. Then the layout of the questionnaire should be presentable, of course. You need to type it, right? To make it presentable. Then in your own time, distribute and collect a minimum of 20 completed market research survey questionnaires. So what is gonna happen is this, right? You're gonna type it out, then you print out. Make sure that you have at least 20 copies, right? Then you distribute the 20 copies to your peers. Your peers, they will respond to it, then you collect it back, right? Which is going to constitute a kind of evidence, right? That you are going to submit along with your papers. Right. If you submit, I'm going to show you the rubric. If you submit less than that, then your mark going to be low. Right. So everything depends on you. So you need to take care of that. All right. So that one is a format. Under supervision, analyze and access the information from the market survey questionnaire and write a report. Okay. What we are going to do is this. I'm going to show you how to do a little bit of analysis. Right. Whereby we need to do a kind of small calculation or put it in a bar chart, a kind of pictogram or pie chart or whatever. Right. Depends, yeah. Huh? Yes, I love it. I love it. Those days I used to be very well, keen in doing calculations. Before I changed to this business administration and all those stuff. You see, remember I said I started my career in the field of quantity surveying. Quantity is calculation. So I used to be very keen on doing that. Quantity. Huh? Quantity surveying. We calculate the cost of construction. If you want to construct a house, no matter how big the house, I will tell you the amount. The money you, huh? No, you see, I didn't want to be on. Every time I was always on site, in the construction site, getting dirty. You know, I took. Those days when I used to see my friends putting on tie like this, corporate, I said, I want to be like those guys. But it was very nice. I used to be in the construction area. You see, yeah, for a long time, for a long time. I started being in the construction field when I was, I can say, 21. Yeah, yeah, long time ago. Because by the time I graduated from tertiary, then I got a job quickly. Because to get a job based on that career is very easy. If you are a quantity surveyor, very easy to get a job that time. You know. Then I worked there. I even went to some other countries in African countries. There as a quantity surveyor as well. And I did a lot of projects. Even when I came here recently, no, but not so much of recent, 2021, 22. I did a project here, Prasa. Yeah, I did a project with Prasa. Easter Platte Station, train station, Easter Platte. No, they were renovating it. I was engaged as the project quantity surveyor. Easter Platte train station, Paro, and the Taga Valley, those stations, there were three stations. We did a good job there. Easter Platte train station. Oh man, go there. It's like it's refurbished, looking nice, great. Yeah, we made some bugs there as well, right? Yeah, as a consultant, you know. Right. So now, like I said, I'm going to show you how to do a little bit of analysis, but it's easy, right? Because you just count the number of people that say yes, the number of people that say no, all those kind of stuff, right? So look at it. Total number of guys, you need to work it out like this. Wait, let me finish with this. Total number of questionnaires distributed. You write down, it's easy, right? Then total number and percentage of questionnaires returned. Perhaps you distributed 30, and out of those 30, you're unable to retrieve, to return 30. If it is 20 that is returned, you say 20 over 30 times 100, then you get the percentage. Total number of questionnaires that are positive responses, then you work it out. Then the conclusion, whether the idea is feasible, right, based on the data received, on the result. Then you attach your completed survey questionnaire to your finished report, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, that's all you need to do as far as your ISAT is concerned. Sub class one and sub class two. Right. Okay. Cheers. I'm gonna put it on YouTube, right?